So, to briefly recap from what I can actually remember, the suspect who was held for attempting to sabotage the peace talks between the Zealand and the Federation, the Klingons, and the rest of the uh, Alliance was confined to his quarters, but toward the end of the episode was found dead in said quarters. This was one of a few events that went on. There was also the Shiana's Kalhaya ritual that had started. Um, let's see. What else do y'all remember?
Rye going down the rabbit hole of conspiracy
Yes,
theories.
Rai had
Yes.
his murder board set up.
Yes.
Go
yes, I
down
do have
the
It
that.
was-
rabbit hole. And Jezza going, okay, but maybe.
I think it was one of those moments where the more I talked, the more notes the GM took. Like, yeah, that's totally what's happening. Yeah,
That is generally speaking how I roll. So it may
No,
maybe.
I do that sometimes too. I love it when players are like, "I know who's behind it." Yeah, that's exactly my plan the whole time. The whole time.
Just ignore me, hardly take notes under the table.
Right? Yeah, I'll just mute myself here while I'm going 100 miles an hour on my keyboard.
I literally changed the direction of a game by going, you know what, I'm gonna go the other direction entirely that you weren't expecting whatsoever. So congratulations. Now an NPC that was a minor role is a major role. You're welcome. I've
Nice.
done that multiple times.
Nice. But yeah, the Bianca and Jonas both kind of felt this Bajoran lieutenant just kind of disappear, sort of. Just kind of gone.
I saw him being cut out, and it was not pleasant.
No, it was not. And was quite taxing on top of the conditions that you all were already going through. So Shiana was at the point of saying, to hell with this, I got an investigation to do, this Kalhaya is going to have to wait. And came out of the holodeck just as Valkyrie was approaching, and I think that was where we left things off.
Yeah, we were still in the holodeck, and Valkyrie's had just Rye had opened the holodeck doors, told us what had happened, and then Valkyrie's was coming in.
For those of us who have been away, whom's does Valkyries?
She
The
is
great lady of the House of Duras, the house that
okay.
Placaire belongs to, and Dolly is in the holodeck with us. So
Got it. Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
So that's where we pick up. So let me move you all to the holodeck. If the landing pages on the top of my screen would be so nice as to load sometime today. There they are. And here we are. I wish I had more granular control over the zoom level on my end, but that's my problem, not y'all's. All right, so Kate, where are you at?
Just about to leave the holodeck.
Okay. So Valkyrie comes in, or stands at the arch basically, with a Dick Tog in hand, and seems. Actually, I'm gonna make this a roll. Let's have an insight command check for you, Shiana, and it's gonna be difficulty 1. Okay. So you've gained momentum, bringing you all up to 2. For just a fraction of a second, you see just an inkling of surprise on her face, and then it. She recomposes herself. Uh, and asks, "Where are you going?"
My apologies, but I have to tend to my duties. I have a dead / disappeared murder suspect.
She takes this information in and says, "Very well. I can respect one's sense of duty. I will accompany you."
As will I.
Shanna looks back at at Bianca for a split second, like, is this kosher? I know it's not, but I have to pretend it is, don't I?
I mean, I'm not gonna argue with the great lady of a Klingon house.
Neither is Shanna. Well,
Since it
not all
seems
the
like
time.
everyone else is going to investigate, I'm gonna look at the captain and be like, I guess I'll be back on the bridge.
I'll keep you updated.
The ship is safe with me, Captain. I'll hand them the pad that has all the details on it, and I'll probably grab Commander Ran unless they have a reason for. I'm saying your name again wrong, isn't it?
Ron.
Yeah.
Ron. I'll take Commander Ron with me.
Pretend it has an O instead of 2 A's.
Ron. There we go. Thank you.
Oh, and do me a favor, Commander. Have Captain Bosch of the USS Yorktown pick up diplomatic attaches from Felithrix and Delphine. Or yeah, that's the homeworld.
Mhm.
At Felithrix and Delphine. And have them back here.
All right, Captain. So that's the first thing I do when I get to the bridge, but that
Okay.
sounds like a quick, boring thing. So move on.
All right, so where to?
Back
To our
the
suspect's
station.
quarters.
All righty.
Though I suppose we should change along the way.
Fresh set of uniforms might
Yeah.
be help doing yourselves and everyone all around you a favor. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a good idea. Also, Jonas is tagging along. No one said he couldn't.
Yeah, same.
Fair.
Hey, I might be able to help with the whole medical examining thing.
Right? Yeah. So it's the whole Scooby Doo gang is coming along. All right. So.
Cat, no, please down. Ow.
Oh, cat needs claws clipped.
Cat just needs to not put their butt in my face when I'm trying to look at the screen.
I mean, or ever for that matter. Okay. So you find yourselves back in Angelyevik's quarters. Let me see here. Commander Vassar the station security officer does a security override on the door and lets you all in. The door's part. And the room doesn't look out of order. You see Yevik just kind of sprawled on the floor in the middle of the quarters.
Shanna holds a hand out to hold everyone back. Okay, I'm just gonna need everybody to take a pause on entering the scene.
Bianca's actually going to stay next to the station security officer,
Okay.
and then she's going to ask. Do you know how it happened?
No one else was in his quarters. It's the only thing I can think is that this was self-inflicted.
Jonas just shakes his head very slowly.
I'm gonna wait till Shiana gives
Shannon's
me
going to
the
proceed with her tricorder
Okay.
to the body and see what she gets.
Okay. So let's have a reason security roll for Shiana. I'm gonna set the difficulty here at 1. Okay. So you gain 1 more momentum. The tricorder doesn't pick up any life signs in the room. Nothing seems out of the ordinary in the quarters. No life signs on Lieutenant Anjal.
And what do I see in terms of position of the body or anything like indicating a possible method of death?
There is a hypospray that looks like it clattered out of his hand as he collapsed.
Can I tell what was in the hypospray?
With a medicine check, you probably could, yes.
Don't forget Dauntless there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say, Doctor, come take a look at this.
I will, carefully following Shiana's foot, like where Shiana walks, so like I'm not walking anywhere new. Like, you know, the whole like walking in someone else's footprints kind of thing. As
Yeah.
it were. I'm gonna do that and approach.
Okay.
So Shiana's doing the like the CSI like kind of crouch, right? Like
Right, yeah.
like so
The
what do you make-
Horatio crouch.
we're just going full in, like, yeah, Shiana the investigator is now like a thing. She says, Duckley, what do you make of this hypo spray?
This is a potentially stupid question. Like, would there be like fingerprint identification, like stuff like that? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna be looking for that. That's obviously like Shiana's job. But like, would I know better than to touch it?
Gotcha.
Yeah. You've got
I mean, you'd have basic investigative techniques, kind of in your bailiwick house.
Yes,
I don't
okay.
even know what the word is.
Repertoire.
Thank you.
Repertoire.
Yes.
Okay, then I will just leave it where it is and do a medical scan of both the hypo spray and him
Okay.
to like make sure like if he did inject this spray, like it is in his body and like, you know, that kind of thing.
Right. Okay, so I'm not going to make you roll for this because your cybernetic arm basically counts as a medical kit.
Hell yeah, meta arm. just like wave my arm over him.
I mean, not quite like that, but like you've got the equipment available that you would have the advantage.
I know.
It would
Look,
basically be a difficulty 0.
I was imagining Reese from Tales from the Borderlands, and
Okay. The hypospray contains trace amounts of sialadin, which is also present in Angel's bloodstream.
do I know what that?
You do. It's a poison.
Okay. Do I know if it's a synthetic poison or a natural poison?
It is synthetic.
Would you need clearance to replicate it?
Under normal circumstances, you would, yes.
But he has trace amounts in his system.
Enough to have killed him.
Okay. Can I tell if, like, he died from asphyxiation or, like, a heart attack or...
Unfortunately, Memory Alpha is kind of short on what this actually would do, but...
If it's similar to an opioid or something like that, then it would probably be lung-based.
I'm going to say it just, like, shut down his nervous system.
Okay, so I will look back to Shiana. What's the name of it again? I'm sorry.
Sialadin. I'll put it in the
Sialadin.
Discord chat.
Thank you. And I will say the hypospray contains remnants of sialadin, and there are lethal amounts in his body. However, for a person such as him to acquire this substance, he would have needed some sort of clearance. It's a prohibited toxin.
Do you want to track that down? Go to medical here on the station and see if we can figure out from their records if they're missing sialadin or if somebody authorized.
Maybe, figure out which replicator it came from.
Yeah.
I can attempt to.
Is there a replicator?
Well, I think I'd like to have you on that, from both the medical and the computer aspect of it.
Sorry, Journey? What were you saying?
I was just gonna ask if there's a replicator in his quarters.
There
That's a
is.
good question. So that will be the first thing I check before leaving the room.
Oh, yeah, yeah, like, Shiana needs to check that replicator. Duh. I forgot that there's a replicator.
No, it's fine. It's been a couple of weeks. I mean, it always is, but... And I am partially distracted by the people howling outside my office.
What?
By people, you mean cats?
No, I mean
Oh,
people.
No, it's a thing here where people howl at the moon at 8 p.m.
Even if the moon's not up.
What?
Why?
The
I
idea
don't know,
is
it's a solid social solidarity thing, I guess.
It's
Oh,
also
okay.
it's like in the UK they're doing clap for the NHS and we're doing howl for our essential workers. Our health.
Because we have like noisemakers at whatever for yes, okay. I'm following.
I don't fucking know.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
What is the position that the lieutenant's in? Is it a natural position? And is the look on their face, the way their muscles set, is that also a natural look? Like, do they look like they peacefully went into the night because they injected themselves, or does it look different?
It was... It's hard for you to tell not having any medical training, but it looked like he was in pain when he died.
But I would guess with something that shuts down your nervous system that you would
Yeah,
be
the
in pain
neurotoxin.
whether you intended to do this to yourself or not.
Right.
That's
Does he have
Shiana's
any-
thinking.
Does he have
That,
any
like-
signs of... Sorry.
Shiana, go ahead.
Oh, just like whether he appeared to have been in pain is not an indicator of whether this was self-inflicted or not.
Right. And Dahlia, you were saying?
Does it seem like he has any sort of stress injuries in terms of like being forced to inject himself? Does he have any bruises? Does he have any like restraint marks? Because even if he died, there might be like subcutaneous. Is that
Yeah,
the-
subcutaneous wounds. No, there's nothing to indicate that he was forced to do this, or even that anyone else was in these quarters.
Okay, yeah. So then I will slide on over to the replicator and pull up like a manifest of the most recent stuff.
Okay. So manifest of the most recent things ordered from the holodeck, or from
Like
the
within
holodeck,
the-
Jesus,
within
from
the,
the
like,
replicator.
last 24 hours or so.
Okay. Let me think for just a second. At the far end of your 24-hour window, there is a request for. He did order this hypo spray. And it looks like he may have bypassed the security controls on the replicator in order to do so.
I will motion for Shiana to look this over to see if it's like it's something he could have done on his own, or if he.
Okay, so Shannon, let me have you give me a reason security roll. Difficulty on this is still 1. Okay, so it's 1 success, 1 complication. I'm going to bank that as threat. And from what you can tell, Shiana, he used some sort of hardware, some sort of hardware manipulation to override the replicator in order to dispense this medication. To dispense the... wow, I'm glad I put that in chat because I forgot the name of it. To dispense the Sialadin. Because otherwise he should not have been able to do that. It would have required clearance at the chief medical officer level.
Well, I guess he had already proven himself resourceful.
Yeah, it tracks with how he perpetuated his crime. Well, I think it's time to check out his personal logs.
With your permission, Captain Commander, I would still like to speak with the chief medical officer of the station.
Of course.
I'm gonna go to the CMO and let them know that they've had a breach.
Okay, so we'll follow you out there in a few moments, but right now I'm going to stick with the scene
That's
in
fine.
Angel's quarters. So,
And Bianca is going to turn to the station security officer and say, if you don't mind, I want this investigation to be under the purview of the Dauntless security team. It's nothing personal, but I think the Zealand would prefer it that way.
Uh, Commander Vassar thinks on this for a moment and says, "It might be best for all involved, Captain, if Dauntless's security details remained focused on the conference. I certainly wouldn't mind assistance with this investigation, but I don't want to overburden your officers. They've already got their own ship to worry about."
And that is when Shiana raises a mental eyebrow so hard in Bianca's direction.
Jonas is doing that too.
Hell?
Bianca just says, "That is true, nevertheless. I'm afraid that this is an extension of the security of the diplomatic conference."
Yes, ma'am. I'll make sure your security officers have clearance to Lieutenant Angel's person logs and any other resources that we have that they might need.
Of course.
Commander,
You're going to have to be more specific, Jonas.
there. Wait. Oh wow. Yeah. Sorry. I guess I should. Shiana.
Yeah, Jonas?
Is it alright if I come in the room now?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and come in. And actually, given your familiarity with Bajoran culture, if you're comfortable, I'd like you to listen in on the personal logs.
Of course. I would not mind.
And before they get started on that, Bianca's going to nod to Shiana and she's going to say, "Commander Darrow, I'm going to leave this further investigation in your hands. I need to update the diplomat."
Understood, Captain. I'll report back.
Let me know as soon as you know anything. And with that, Bianca nods to them and the station's chief of security and heads over to the conference room.
Okay. So now we will go over to the station's sick bay.
Do I know the name of the CMO?
They're not. You had not met them by this point, so probably not.
Alright, that's fine. So I will go in and like make sure that I'm not in the way if there's any whatnot. Like I don't know how different it is from like a ship sick bay. Like is there a reception area?
No, it's basically set up very similarly to your sick bay. Starbase construction tends to be modular, and starship sick bays work, if that makes sense. So, from the Starbase standpoint, there was no need to kind of reinvent the wheel.
Fair enough.
It's not like DS9 where they were inheriting a Cardassian station and trying to make do with what they had.
Yeah, because DS9 is the only familiarity I have with a station. So.
Yeah. So no, this is, if anything, this is a larger sick bay and slightly better stocked. Actually, significantly better stocked.
Damn their stocks! Dahli is slightly jealous. Only slightly. But I will wait for like whoever is in charge or whoever's on shift to acknowledge me.
There are a couple of nurses wandering around, and one of them notices you and flags down an Endorian who approaches you, offers a hand, and says, "Hello, Commander Dauntless Chimeric. And you are?"
Centurion Dachley.
"Pleasure. What brings you to my sickbay?"
I am the Chief Medical Officer of the USS Dauntless. And we are currently undergoing an investigation. I am unaware if you are aware of the situation.
No, I haven't been updated yet. What's going on?
I will give him like the basic rundown of
Okay.
like the like who done it, and then like, oh, we found this Bajoran dude, and
Yeah,
all
no,
that.
that party would have known about, just
Okay.
had not heard
Yeah,
about
so-
the suicide yet, because it has basically just happened within the last,
Yeah,
like,
so
10
I
minutes.
will reiterate the who done it, and then I will say like we just got word that this happened, and that he had lethal doses of Sialadin in his system, and it seemed he had bypassed security protocols in order to.
Well, you answered what my next question was going to be, because I was going to ask how the hell he got his hands on Sialadin.
I was rather concerned when I noticed it myself.
I'll have a chat with our chief of security, make sure no one else can do the same thing he did. Last thing I need is a suicide epidemic on my station.
I would also recommend checking your stores to make sure that no more than a single dosage is missing.
Yeah, I'll be doing that too.
However, while I am here, is it possible to obtain the lieutenant's medical records to see if he has any potential history or reasoning for such a...
Well, sure. I saw him just a few weeks ago. He didn't seem any way out of the ordinary, but extraordinary events can have extraordinary effects on people, you know what I mean? He pulls up the...
I like he like says that, and I just kind of do like the like jaw squiggle and like slight head tilt that Seven does. No shit.
Dudley's like,
No
you
shit."
don't say.
But yeah, and then I will just look over his medical records.
Okay, so yeah, he opens up the medical file and there's some hallmarks of post-traumatic stress in that you notice just from reading the symptoms, or just from reading the medical file, that may not have stood out to Dr. Chimeric.
All right. Does it seem like he was seeking treatment for it, or it was just like left kind of?
It was not it does not look like it was diagnosed.
Can I try to discern, like just like through deduction, where it could have stemmed from, based off of his history?
Yeah, let's do this as an insight medicine. We're gonna set the difficulty here at 2.
All right, and I'm assuming my xenopsychology focus applies.
Yes, it will.
How do I use this sheet again? No, I'm kidding.
God.
Well, okay if I take a momentum.
Y'all got 3, so yeah. Okay, 2 successes made the difficulty. So it looked like this. It looks, from your examination of his medical history, that this was pre-existing before he entered Starfleet.
Interesting. Is there anything notable on file of like childhood events?
There does not appear to be like the there doesn't not appear to be, and that's because his Starfleet medical file only goes so far back as his time at Starfleet Academy.
Got it. Okay.
There
so it's
there
not as
might be
in-depth
more if he
as-
has medical records on Bajor.
Okay. Got it. And he would be too young to have been part of the occupation, correct?
Yes, the occupation would have. He wasn't alive to see the occupation or the Dominion War. Well, both of
wow,
those were before
okay.
his time. You got to
Okay.
consider the Dominion War by this point was 35 to 40 years ago.
Damn. Okay. But yeah, so I will just take that knowledge and thank the doctor and see about contacting Bajor for any further information.
Okay.
For now, that is what I will do.
All right. So, Bianca, you said you were going to the conference room. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's.
Okay. What's going? Are they like taking a break, or are they still in negotiations, or?
For narrative purposes, let's say they're taking a break.
Okay. Because Bianca's gonna have two separate conversations. She's going to have a conversation with Kismet, and then a conversation with Luoxana.
Okay, I'm sorry. Which was the first one?
Kismet.
Kismet. Okay. All right, ready when you are.
Bianca she's not in her dress uniform this time, she's just in her regular uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And she approaches Kismet.
Okay. Captain
And,
West, what can I do for you?
Bianca kind of motions to kind of take her to the side. She goes, "The individual that we had in custody committed suicide."
I'm sorry to hear this.
The Dauntless security team is currently investigating to make sure that this was as it appears and that there isn't any more widespread involvement. But I thought that you should know.
Thank you, Captain.
And I do not know if it was shared with you what his motive was.
Do you have a does? Yes, I had not heard.
His species. About... I'm trying to do the calculations of how long ago the Cardassian occupation was.
It's 2412, and the occupation was in the 2350s and 2360s, I think. So it's been more than... It's been half a century.
Over 50 years ago, his people were subjugated by a race who is now part of the Alpha Quadrant Alliance called the Cardassians. It was a decades-long occupation, and his grandfather died during this occupation. and it still remains in Bajoran cultural memory, even though he was not alive to see it. And Bianca kind of looks at Kismet, kind of trying to see if Kismet is putting the pieces together.
She is. I will say that she's not trying to hide her facial expressions, and yeah, at the moment she's not difficult to read. Let me pull up her character sheet real quick. Uh, and but she simply listens, like she kind of cocks her head as if to say, go on.
I am afraid that sentiments like his will not be isolated within the Federation.
It is something that has come up in the negotiations.
And Bianca is going to take a moment. So what Bianca's kind of wanting to do is kind of grease the wheels a little bit, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of like, this is not an issue that is going to go away, and it's not going to be an issue that the Federation is going to be eager to compromise on. But without being insulting.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and given Bianca's experience with diplomacy, she would find the right way to say this, if that helps.
Okay, I didn't know if I needed to make a roll or spend momentum to gain an advantage or anything like that.
No, I don't think so. But Kismet considers this for a moment and says, "We do want a peace with the Federation. There may be areas where the Zealand will need your help. As of yet, I do not know what that help might look like or what that request for assistance may look like."
Of course. And I also wanted to let you know that I have invited a couple of delegates to the peace conference. They are Federation member citizens. Unfortunately, their world was overlooked by the diplomatic corps when they put together the team that came here for the negotiations, but I feel like their insights will be valuable. Just so there aren't any surprises.
And she kind of looks at you quizzically and says, "Delegates from which worlds?"
Worlds that we call Philothrix and Delphine. In the Philothrene system.
Ah, the first system where we encountered the Dauntless, you mean?
Precisely. I believe the Zealand are familiar with this system from many centuries ago.
Yes, we are familiar with the system. It is not far from here. We are rather surprised they weren't invited previously.
As was I. But once they beam aboard the station, I would like to introduce you personally.
Given,
I was on the first contact team for both worlds.
Captain, given my ancestry, that may cause complications.
This is a complicated issue, is it not?
I suppose it is.
Now I'm afraid I must speak to Ambassador Troy.
Of course. I will take my leave.
Thank you. Bianca inclines her head respectfully, and she goes over to Luoxana.
Power move.
And she is now speaking to Luoxana telepathically.
Telepathically, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bianca, darling, what can I do for you?
Luoxana, I wanted to inform you that the suspect that we had in custody had committed suicide.
Well, shit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. I'll get a hold of the Bajoran government and let his next of kin know.
I appreciate that. Also, I wanted to let you know that I have invited God, what are their names?
Hold on, because I can get those for you.
I know where they are. It's just
Yeah. Katorash and Adriel. From the Philothrix and Delphine, respectively.
Minister Katarish and Adriel to the negotiations.
No, from the Philothrix and Delphine worlds, of course.
I'm sorry, I should have checked with you first, but time has become of the essence.
It's all right. I've been communicating with them anyway, darling, but you're right, they should be here in person.
I've sent the Yorktown to retrieve them. They should be back momentarily.
Well, it'll be nice to meet them in person. Though, I'm not sure how to go about hugging a dolphin.
You don't. You just smile a lot, I guess. But I have also shared the motive behind the murder of the Zealand escorts to Kismet.
Go on.
Not to put too fine a point on it, but he felt like this was the Cardassian occupation all over again.
Well. Not quite, but I suppose the subtle differences between an occupation and a negotiation might be missed by somebody who's myopically focused.
Perhaps. But Loxana, I have rescued people who have been escaping from New Zealand. We can't just keep letting them do it. I
Yeah.
don't want a war, but
You're absolutely right. And in part because I have been communicating with the Delphine and the Fellathrix, this is something we've been going over with the Sealand. So it really might be best if we just bring you into the conference, at least for a little bit, to kind of let you know where the negotiations stand.
I would appreciate that.
Well, we'll see about doing that when Katarash and Adriel arrive.
Of course. I also wanted to let you know that the USS Shroud has left the has left the sector for the Alpha Quadrant.
Oh, well, that's unexpected.
To be sure.
It's unfortunate that Varric is such a dear man.
Well, we'll see how that all goes. And being Betazoid, Loxana knows how loaded that statement is.
Which statement, hers or yours?
Mine.
Oh, okay.
because Varric is going back to the Alpha Quadrant in part to look for his mother, right? Right. So
that is something he had planned on. Yes.
yes. So family matters. You know what I mean.
Ah, family. I do. Well, please tell him I wish him luck.
Of course. And I will bring the minister and Adriel here as soon as they arrive.
Okay. So, on that note, let's cut over to the bridge.
Bianca's playing a chess game.
Okay.
And she's just like,
Just like I'd rather be playing solitaire, thanks. Alright, so, Dauntless, you're getting an incoming hail from the USS Yorktown.
I've already tasked the Yorktown to do what they were supposed to do.
Right, yes. And they're actually en route back.
Gotcha. On screen?
It's Commander Rye, was it? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Commander Ryan, normally Chief Science Officer of the Dauntless, but it's been an interesting. How long have we been here? 2 days? 2 days. It's been an interesting 2 days.
It seems like it's always interesting around here, Commander. Anyway, we've got a couple of VIPs aboard from the Fellathrix and Delphine homeworlds, where you're standing by to transport them over.
To the Dauntless, is that where he's transporting them?
Bianca, did you have a preference on that? To the station?
Yeah,
Okay,
to the
Starbase 374.
Roger, are they are they in the system yet, or are they going to be here in like 10 minutes? What's the plan?
They'll be here momentarily.
Gotcha. I will alert the captain. That I will alert the captain of arrival. Thank you, Yorktown.
Understood. Yorktown out.
All right. So I'm going to turn to whoever's at the science console. I will do it for them. Whatever. I'm gonna scan the area for any trouble, just in case something else happens.
Yeah, the fun thing about being in the center chair is you have to delegate all that shit.
Yeah. So yeah, I will assist him, the NPC, because I will do it via tell him, run a scan on beta frequencies. I want to make sure nothing interferes with the transporter beam. And other than that, just give me a general sensor sweep.
A wise precaution, Captain. Stand by. All right, we're going to make this difficulty... Actually, I'm not going to make this a roll. Normally would be difficult... Well, yes, I am. Normally would be difficulty 2. I'm going to make it difficulty 1 because of the Dauntless' sensors. So we'll have Catalea roll, and Rai, you can roll an assist, and Dauntless can roll an assist with Sensor Science.
Can I roll with... to be honest, I think it's a presence science check.
All right.
No, right now. I mean, as much as it's not... I totally have a focus, though. I just feel like that's what the dice roll is. It might not... It's not good for me at all, but...
No, if you want to roll with that, that's fine.
Yeah, I did
all right.
There you go, 1 success.
3, 4, 6 successes. All right.
There we go. All right.
Well, 1 sensor scan, and y'all are maxed out on momentum.
There you go.
No anomalies. No anomalies in the system. Slight uptick in the tachyonic eddies in the system, but nothing that would affect any of the ships in the system at the moment.
Gotcha. Is there anything those tachyonic eddies might indicate outside of, a solar flare or whatever?
They seem to be carrying a current of tachyons not unlike an ocean current.
Would that bring a significance to my character in any way?
Probably not, no. I mean, it's an interesting little curiosity, but nothing that would affect the Dauntless, nothing that would affect the sensors or the transporters.
I will tell, on that note, just because everything's, because I'm going down a rabbit hole, I'm going to make a note in the log that I detected this, so quote-unquote, it's easier to search in the future. I'm tagging this entry just in case, putting in a keyword in case we're like, man, what happened to this?
Right. No, that's perfectly understandable.
May never be a thing. Other than that, I'm just going to... I'm going to get us to... Since they're coming and there's been a lot of trouble, I'm going to bring us to yellow alert until the transport is complete.
Okay.
Just to have the phasers ready to go.
Can I create an advantage of some kind?
What would you be looking to do?
I don't know. Just kind of like something that almost maybe like a precognition, or like everybody's on extra alert, so we're kind of like dotting the I's and crossing the T's and just like...
Given that it has to be something related to the sensor roll...
I meant just like in general with the momentum.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, an advantage has to be tied to a task.
Okay.
Does the player wish to suggest an advantage?
Or maybe like an advantage to like if there is anything amiss.
One of my favorites ones, actually, that's a good idea. Maybe.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
That Rai would pick up on anything that is amiss.
Potentially.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones, very general, but kind of comes up. Can I just create an advantage? Detailed sensor sweep. Then so then we've got that. So if anything comes up with the sensors later, or something comes off, I can reference that advantage that I have a really good scan of the region. So when something changes, I know. I think that's kind of what.
And I think the tachyon eddies, like this sensor scan gave you a good enough map of them that the sensors would pick up if something were to disturb them, say a cloaked ship.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, we'll just do. I think a general, just detailed
like
scan.
Where they're coming from.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's a good idea. Normally I even do that. That was actually, good. Well, good way to out Romulan me there. Yeah. Because I normally do that. That's normally one of my favorite advantages to invoke. So yeah, totally spend 2 momentum, detailed scan of the region or sect, whatever, however you want to.
I'll give this to you for 1.
Cool. I'll take it. Other than that, like I said, we're gonna go to yellow alert just in case any bullshit happens during the transport. Like,
Just
we are
long enough
ready.
for the transport itself. Yep. And
Yeah, I mean, for 5 minutes, that while they drop out of warp, they got to impulse in. Once that's done, I'm gonna wait 5 minutes. Then we're gonna go back to the security alert that we're normally at.
all right, I will be right back. I need some water. So
Sounds good.
talk amongst yourselves.
That was a good. I now
I-
actually feel.
I'm just drinking
Looking
wine.
Right now, I'm
Because
just
that's
waiting
how I
for
take
Dawn
Same. It's all about the
Me too.
wine.
wine.
Me
yeah.
too. Are we all just lush captains right now, or lush?
I'm
captain?
drinking
Oh,
cherry vanilla
I'm a
Coke 'cause
full-on
I'm a square.
quarantine alcoholic at this point, people.
There is a Mike Sard lemonade in the fridge with my name on it.
My
I'm
best
drinking
friends,
soda.
my best
Yeah,
friends
me
are out of
too.
town right now.
Go soda buddies.
They drove down to Texas to go on a boar hunt, and because they're out of town, I get to take care of, their like zoo, and then the seedlings, and then the like yard, and like a bunch of other shit. So they left me wine.
Also, can I just say, after the conversation that Jonas had with this dude, he is not buying suicide.
I need water.
He's really
buddy.
not.
No, other buddy.
Like,
Oh, of
Yeah.
course he is.
weird. It's definitely weird.
All right, back.
Him bypassing the security is weird in and of itself.
That's why Jonas stayed behind with you.
With who?
His things.
With Shienna?
Yes.
Gotcha. Let the Romulan have command. Constantly change the alert level. We are going to roll. Spins a wheel. Fuchsia alert.
That means we have to shut down the engine room and keep our weapons going.
That's right. Phasers on a constant sweep.
Shut down the engine room. I'm sure Jezza will have zero issues with that. No, not even a little bit. Not even the tiniest issue. It's not like she's going to go to the bridge and drag him out and be like, I need to get you somewhere private so I can, not get in trouble for beating you with a shoe.
The shoe that she normally saves to stick in the engine core for when she needs the engine room to malfunction. Like, shit, I need a break. I'm doing a level 1 diagnostic of the main engines.
You get all the pets, but I need you to go now. Go. Be free.
Be free.
My cat was in front of me on the desk, and I was petting him in a way he didn't like, and he started yowling at me. So he had to go.
Nix. Silly boy.
He's so needy.
Okay, so we are picking back up aboard the station, which I don't really have a graphic for, so thought
Use the bedroom that you were using before.
I've got an exterior shot I can use. We'll just go with that. It's fine.
Oh, I like that.
So, Bianca, you get notified. I assume you get the notification from Rye. Actually, if y'all want to play that out, that's fine too. Come to think of it. Sorry, my brain is a goldfish tonight, y'all.
Sure.
But that notwithstanding, then yes, the delegates are beamed aboard.
Oh, and Bianca would be like, would want extra security,
Yeah, from the Dauntless, yeah.
and she will be bringing Kismet as well.
Okay. So there's a so Katarash kind of does this like Picard maneuver thing where he shakes the ruffles out of his outfit. Says, I'm still not used to this transport.
Takes a while to get used to, trust me.
And when you
Good to see you again.
likewise, and he just kind of furrows his brow at Kismet. I don't believe I've had the pleasure.
Katorash, this is Kismet. She is negotiating on behalf of the Zealand.
I see.
Kismet, this is Administrator Katorash and Adriel, leader of the Delphine people.
A pleasure. Katorash takes a moment and says, "You'll forgive me, this is a bit difficult, but to be frank, Kismet, you were a reminder of a time that the Fellathrix have sought to put behind us. I understand, and the Zealand wish to help with recovery and healing process, if that is at all possible."
And Bianca offers to Katorash, as I'm sure it was difficult when we helped relocate the refugees.
Yes, but potentially on a much vaster scale. But that is something for the conference, is it not?
Of course. That's why you're here.
Well then, shall we?
Of course, I will introduce you to Ambassador Troy myself.
All right. So from here, you'll go down to what is basically a promenade, where the negotiations have been taking place. I mean, there's a conference room, and then kind of outside the conference room is a circular setup, kind of like DS9's promenade, but writ smaller. Actually, I don't want to say smaller, because DS9's promenade wasn't that large. But it's got a more airy feeling to it, like more like an open market, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so this has been, while the conference has been on break, this has been kind of where everyone has been kind of hanging out.
And it's like super secure, right? Like.
Well, I mean, super secure from a Starfleet perspective, so. But I mean, there are access control points, if that makes sense. Like, there are
Right.
Dauntless security officers at each of the entrances to the promenade, just making sure that people don't have weapons on them, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not oh, you need an ID, and if you're not this level of access or higher, you can't enter, because that's kind of not Starfleet's way, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like,
But-
it's a heightened level of security, but not that heightened.
Right.
So that's where things stand, but it looks like everyone's getting ready to kind of pack back into the conference room.
And Bianca will just kind of like wave them into the conference room and
Okay.
follow behind.
All right. You do run into Loexana on the way in, or as you're approaching the conference room. Ah, Bianca, these are the delegates. Katorash, Adriel, nice to meet you in person.
Ambassador Troy.
A pleasure, Ambassador. And they kind of do the formal greeting thing, and then file their way into this conference room as well. All right, if everyone's ready, we will resume. Everyone, I'm sure, is familiar with the Dauntless's captain, Bianca West. Captain West, you're familiar with just about everyone here, I'm sure, since you would have met them on their way over to the starbase.
Yes.
So no further introductions necessary there. However, by Bianca's request, we have invited Katorash from Felothrix and Adriel from Delphine to join us in this negotiation. Any objections? No objections, so noted. Now, Bianca, with respect to the negotiations thus far, I am pleased to tell you that the Zealand have made significant concessions up to this point. They are willing to offer citizenship for their subjugated races, full citizenship into their government. We are still negotiating what might happen for those races who may not wish to join them, and who may wish for their freedom outright. But the Zealand have also offered reparations and repatriation for the Felothrix that they've held. Does this extend to our world as well, Ambassador? And that's where Kismet speaks up and says yes. What were you going to say, Bianca?
Bianca's she's going to nod in understanding. And she'd like to make a perception roll.
Okay.
Just like a reading the room type of thing. Kind of getting the mental lay of the land.
Okay. I actually would not make you roll for this.
Okay.
Because you're basically doing a passive read on the room.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a bit of tension where it comes to the citizenship versus independence discussions. Like, you felt nerves tense up when Loaxana touched on that point. But you also felt that Kismet's offer of like repatriation, reparation was legit.
Right.
In return, the Zealand have asked that we help them with the substantial effect that this will have on their ecosystem.
Well, in their economy, I'm sure.
In their economy, but more so their ecosystem. As you may or may not be aware, Captain, the Zealand require the digestive tracts of other species in order for their own digestion to take place.
And Bianca is just going to offer, and I assume that no way has been found to do this synthetically, mechanically.
Synthetics and mechanics are not our areas of expertise. Biology very much is, but up to this point we have not found an alternative. We are asking for help in that regard. We understand the Dominion may be able to assist and have offered their expertise when it comes to manufacturing the compound you call Ketracel White.
So that's the connection. We have encountered what refugees that are dependent on the compound that we call Catracel White.
Yes. It is it's a substance that the Zealand require, but to put it, how do I put this? Their bodies produce the substance and require a broken down, metabolized version of it in order to survive, but they cannot metabolize it themselves. That is where we require the help of other species. Once the chemical is broken down in their systems, it is recycled back into the Zealand's systems. It is a symbiotic relationship in that it produces benefits for both species involved.
Both species involved?
Yes?
How does it benefit the species that is metabolizing this compound for the Zealand?
It prolongs lifespans, improves mood.
I see.
Produces physical benefits as well.
I see. Alright. Obviously, the issue here is consent. I can't imagine that the Zealand... Because the Zealand evolved on their home... From what we understand, on their home world by themselves. How were they metabolizing this compound before they started enlisting the aid of other races to do so?
At this point, Loris speaks up. The Captain, if you know the Herc, you'll know that they can both produce and they metabolize Catracel White, the Catracel White precursor, which is produced from a fungus. We suspect that somewhere over the last 50,000 years, the Zealand evolved apart from this to where the precursor itself became toxic to them.
Yay, divergent evolution.
This tracks. My scientists aboard the Dauntless have discovered that the Zealand and Herc have shared ancestry.
That was one of the first things we noticed when we saw the comparative medical scans from the Dauntless. Now, one other evolutionary divergence is that the Herc are only active for about a few decades out of every millennium. The Zealand obviously have evolved out of that. Possibly as a symptom of the fact that their homeworld doesn't orbit a neutron star. So, it's possible that they had already encountered other races by the time this genetic defect started to show, and rather than being able to cure it, they adapted to it the only way they knew how.
And I assume that the Zealand did not develop the same ethical framework.
Captain, from what we know of the Herc, well, we know precious little about the Herc. Only that one of our previous founders interfered rather destructively in their society, and as a result, we have not had the opportunity to learn much about their ethics or any other aspect of their society. You see, deprived of the Ketracel precursor, they were driven mad.
Bianca has some experience with that.
Yes, so does the entire Alpha Quadrant.
Oh, I said that as an aside. Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
I was not referring to myself in the third person.
Oh.
Um,
Bianca does not refer to herself in the third person. Don't be silly.
and Bianca turns to Kismet and she goes, if the Federation and the Dominion would be able to promise delivery of a sort of mechanism that would be able to process your enzyme or your compound, would you be willing to offer independence?
Is there a solution you have in place already? Or would be able to deploy on the conclusion of these negotiations?
Bianca kind of just looks at Loris and then she kind of looks back at Kismet and she says, not as of yet. However, I would not...
Actually, we might. The Jem'Hadar.
What about the Jem'Hadar?
They metabolize Ketracel White. At least those who still... Those who choose to process the substance. Our recent negotiations with the Federation have produced a cure, if you will, for Ketracel White addiction. They no longer require it as a function of their biology. But there are still a great many who still rely upon the substance. Willingly.
Would they be willing to help the Zealand as a stopgap measure until we have a way to do it synthetically? Because I don't want to trade one set of subjugated races for another.
The Jem'Hadar's very history is not subjugated. They were created to serve the Founders. They will do this.
Forgive me, Loris, if I do not see the distinction as clearly as you do.
That is understandable. We will endeavor to make clear to the Jem'Hadar that this is a task that they may choose to decline. It is difficult to communicate such things to the Jem'Hadar because they are bred and raised to see serving the Founders as their holy purpose. But I will see what we can do.
I also would like I have a task force of Federation medical ships in the area as well. I would like to. They have been working on the problem of the Catcher Cell White addiction in the refugees. Maybe they would also be able to help come up with a synthetic solution, so that we wouldn't have to rely on the Jem'Hadar.
That
As I
sounds...
said, I would prefer it to be a stopgap measure.
Well, we'll leave that to you. We would certainly welcome their aid.
I can have it done. And she turns to Kismet and she goes, would this be agreeable to guarantee independence?
There is one additional factor we would need to guarantee independence. We want
Bianca just tilts her head.
the extradition of anyone involved with the Copper Corsair and the Copper Corsair herself.
And at that, Bianca, she inclines her head. She goes, that is fair. We will see what we can do in terms of locating the Copper Corsair.
I understand. And we will see what we can do about offering independence, rather than simply citizenship, to our member races.
And Bianca goes, but if we deliver the Copper Corsair and her associates, you will guarantee it.
We will guarantee to offer independence. Yes. I warn you now, there may be races who are content to become full-fledged members of our empire rather than obtaining their own independence. That is a choice we will leave to them.
As long as it is their choice. And Bianca wants to see if they know who the Copper Corsair is.
How do you want to go about this?
Telepathy?
Okay.
Telepathy and intuition. Kind of just...
Okay. Kind of just reading her fucking mind. Gotcha.
She wants to know what she's dealing with.
Gotcha. Let's see. Let me find her character sheet again. Sorry, bear with me. I feel like I'm going too far down on this. Don't need that, don't need that. Expanded. Is it further down? Oh, it was further down. Okay. I have a lot of characters on this damn thing. Sorry. So, All right, let's have this be a contested roll. The base difficulty is going to be 1. It's going to be your insight command versus Kismet's presence command.
Okay.
And I'm going to spend 3 threat to give her 2 extra dice.
Can I spend 3 momentum to get 2 extra dice?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm
Also,
trying to
I've been
decide if I
muted
want to
this
burn my daily on this.
I've been muted this entire time, and you have missed everything I've said.
Yep.
I'm dying over here.
Um. Yeah, I'm gonna burn my daily on this.
Okay. What
Trust your
value are you
instincts.
calling upon? Trust your instincts? Okay. So you'll have an automatic crit.
Okay.
The number to beat is 4. And you got it.
All right. Oh, and I should have rolled another die.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Okay.
You got your momentum back. Mostly. Most of it. You can always use cautious command, see if you can get one more success out of it.
Sure.
They said, like, could also be a complication.
No!
Get rid of it. Get rid of
I
it.
can't believe that actually worked. I'm so sorry.
I'm actually gonna spend the momentum
Okay.
to nix that.
Okay. All right. You gather from the number of successes that you've rolled. You gather that she knows more than the Zealand should know about the Copper Corsair. She knows that there was Federation involvement, even if she doesn't know the extent of it.
Okay.
Zealand, not stupid.
No, not stupid at all.
Also,
That-
Zealand recovered substantial
Probably
salvage and data
That-
from the wreckage of the Timberwolf.
Yup.
That's when we come to the Romulan to clear Fall Guy. It's not like I don't have experience with this. I mean, what? Astrophysics?
Not everything can be fixed by you, Rye.
But
Yes,
a lot of
but-
things can.
But what can't
I
be
mean,
fixed by
a lot
Ryan
of things can
can
be
potentially
fixed.
fixed by me.
Yeah, by the proper amount of high explosive, many things can be fixed. Whether or not we want to clean up the pieces.
So that's where things stand here.
How's Shannon's investigation going?
That's a very good question, and we'll be probably getting right back to that once we're done with this scene.
Also, which number Loris is this?
4.
Thank you. It's just kidding. I love the board. Is it the Vorta? They're the ones with the fun ears.
So that's kind of where things stand. And if you want, we can change scenes, or Bianca, if you'd like, we can keep it here a little bit longer.
She's going to shoot a telepathy message to Luoxana.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's going to be completely, like, composed on the outside, but she's going to basically, like, if Luoxana doesn't know about the Copper Corsair operation, just be like, these are the people she wants to extradite.
Give me a presence command check. And this is going to be
Okay.
contested as well.
Alright. I'm gonna buy an extra die.
Okay. And I'm going to spend 1 threat for an extra die. Okay. So you gain your momentum back. Bianca, as you send this little telepathic telegram to Luoxana, you feel Kismet on the edge of your thoughts.
No, I knew it.
Well, yeah, she has a fucking implant!
So, like, edge
You-
of my thoughts, like, she knows, or
No, not that she knows, but that she's listening.
that she's listening to what I just said, like she knows what I just said?
She's listening to the room kind of the same way you are.
Gotcha. That she's aware that I sent this. Like, hey.
She's aware that she's aware that you're communicating under the table, even if she's not aware of what you said.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all I'm
Okay.
gonna do, so.
All right, so Shienna, you there?
Yep.
All right, so where would you be with this investigation at the moment? Would you, because I'm kind of thinking, like, unless there's a lead you're actively pursuing, you would probably be back in the Kalhaya?
Well, what did we find or not find in the personal logs?
Right, the personal logs. Okay. Thank you, because I had kind of forgotten where we were on that.
And there's also the matter of whatever hardware he used to bypass this machine or the replicator that we haven't found yet.
That's true.
And also my contact with Bajor to find out about his medical history.
Bless y'all for keeping me on track, because I was so focused on the conference, like, my goldfish brain was like, what? Huh?
No, it's fine. Like, the conference is pretty intense.
Yeah. So, personal logs, reading them, like, in consecutive order, Shienna, you kind of see somebody who had been stealing himself up to do something he believed was going to get him killed. And kind of building up his own moral justification for doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I guess the question in Shiana's mind is, why did he think it would get him killed? There was an investigation and he got interviewed and arrested.
I
Is there still like capital punishment?
no, well, only for
No,
General Order 24
He's just facing life in. He was just facing life in prison.
or General
So
Order
now
4
I'm-
rather. Yeah. And not even life in prison probably. I mean, the Federation prisons really are rehabilitative. Like you spend a few years in New Zealand they working on making yourself better and moving past whatever it was that caused you to commit the crime in the first place. But so there's no logical reason that you know of that would have led him to believe he would have died doing something like this.
And so it doesn't track then that after admitting what he did and being arrested, why would he kill himself? It just doesn't track.
Mm-mm. Especially after the conversation that Jonas had with, or at least from Jonas's perspective.
Which maybe Jonas Journey, remind me what that conversation was.
Jonas basically talked to him about his past and what led him to make the decision he made, and in the end, ultimately using his LR and listening abilities, at least from what I gathered, convinced this Bajoran that there was hope that the Zealand were coming to the Federation in order to change, that they could change. And that was something that Jonas really wanted to come across with in their conversation, which I think he did, which is why everything settled the way it did, and he was okay with leaving it. Which is also why he doesn't really buy the whole commit suicide part.
Now, except there were absolutely no indications that he acted other than alone. There was no conspiracy revealed by this investigation. No. Ugh.
Well, there is one avenue that we haven't really thought of. It might be a stretch, but it could also. It might be a stretch, but it might also be a thing we hadn't considered before.
Go on.
What if he wasn't acting of his own accord? There's no trace of anybody else being in the room, but everything that I felt in my last conversation with him tells me that he wouldn't have committed suicide. So if he, in his own mindset, wouldn't have committed suicide and there was no one else in the room with him, what about the possibility that someone forced him to commit suicide by controlling him?
But does that track? But does that track with the timeline of when he replicated?
I'm going to point out at this point in time, my character had discovered potentially about them finding the right-wing blogs and stuff. I included that in the report that they have. So if you guys want to bring that up now, like you guys would have that info. But I'm just reminding everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is just it's a very small possibility that it could be that. Or the fact maybe someone was in here and made a very clean getaway. I mean, I know what it's like not being able to control your own body. I mean, it's not entirely unfeasible that someone might have tried that.
Do we know of anyone in the Zealand delegation that is capable of mind control?
If I'm being perfectly honest, I don't know if the Zealand themselves are capable of any sort of mind controlling capabilities.
Here are the options as I see them. Yevek actually killed himself for whatever, for reasons of he always felt that this was a mission, a thing that was going to kill him, and for some reason he wanted that death. 2, a co-conspirator killed him so that he wouldn't reveal them upon further interviews and investigation and trial. 3, this is revenge for the Zealand that he killed.
I'm very much liking option 2. Or 3. 3 less so.
3 there's a level of familiarity with Starfleet technology required.
Oh, speaking of Starfleet technology, we should maybe look around and see if we can find the hardware he used to bypass the replicator. And how would we go about doing that? Like looking for a piece of tech?
So I would make that a Reason engineering task, assisted by Reason security from Shiana.
Engineer. Would any of my focuses apply?
Let me check. No.
Okay.
And I'm going to set the difficulty here at 3.
Oh, okay.
I am momentum.
We always have a momentum peddler. Sometimes it's Sarah, sometimes it's Steph.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab a momentum for an extra die.
Okay.
I don't have a bad Reason Engineering scored. I'm just a little sad I don't have any focuses to go with. Alright, Reason Engineering. Roll. 3.
Okay.
And Gianna's rolling.
Okay. So you made the check. And Shiana, on a separate note, let me have you make an insight command check for me. Just from having read through the personal logs. Actually, I'll let you do insight command or insight security.
What's the difficulty?
Difficulty is 2, and thank you for reminding me to set it. Okay, so you got that one too. All right, so couple of things. Your engineering check, Jonas. You start looking, kind of running your tricorder through the engineering connections, like the replicators hooked up to the optical data network. You kind of just start tracing that back, and you find a little data spike, kind of behind just behind a dresser.
Mm-hmm.
and pulling the dresser back, you can see a little a device about the size of a handbrush that was plugged directly into the ODN.
Okay.
The basic purpose of the device is to allow a replicator to synthesize like real alcohol as opposed to synthahol, but it looks like he made some additional modifications to it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a device that frankly might be commonplace among the junior ranks. Although one would certainly
Minus
hope
the-
not. But
Yeah, minus the alterations that he made.
exactly, yes.
Commander.
And actually, before you continue, Shienna,
Mhm.
having looked through those person logs, it struck you as if parts of the person logs were recorded by someone else. Like there's two distinct versions of Angeljevik, especially leading up to the day or two before the assassination. But sorry, go ahead.
Commander.
Oh God, one of those. Shit.
Yeah, but he's made modifications to it.
Okay, so he did synthesize his own poison, or at least it was done here. I
It's
think
really
the interview with him was so easy, but I think that after reading these logs, listening to him, I think there's something. I think there's a greater like mental or emotional disturbance at play.
What do you mean?
It sounds like two different people. Patterns, cadences, emotions, mostly emotionally, like two completely different people. I'm gonna need to see his medical and psych profiles.
I might. I don't know if I can do anything, but I could try and listen and see if I can get anything from the logs.
Well, Dockley already spoke with the chief medical officer. Right now, I feel like I need to sit down at a desk with all of this information and clear my head. I need to,
Oh,
I need to focus in a little bit differently. I need to get out of here.
That's fine. Do you mind if I still listen to the logs on my own?
Absolutely, go for it.
Jonas would like to listen to the logs.
Okay.
Like,
"Quote unquote," listen to the
yeah,
He's listening on multiple levels, being an Elarian.
yeah, he would like to go to the point as he A, physically listens, and then B, Elarian listens, and see if he can distinguish that there are two different patterns here, two
Okay.
different people.
Okay.
two different songs.
Yes, two different songs writing one chorus.
Okay. So, let's do insight command for this.
Mhm.
And difficulty again is going to be 3. But
Okay.
this time your attunement focus is going to apply.
Thank you. Gonna. I'm going to. I'm gonna do a value.
Okay. What
Because
value
I'd
are you?
rather not mess this roll up. I'd like to do not everything can be learned in school.
Okay. Yeah, that'll work.
Alright. So
So that gives you two successes going in.
Alright, and then I will go ahead and roll.
Okay. So a total of 4 successes. You gain a momentum. And the best way I could put this journey is 2 minds but 1 song. And they're very discordant in the way that the song is coming about. If you've listened to Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, it's kind of that level of chaotic.
Okay. Okay. So after he's done listening, he's gonna take a moment and I don't know how I didn't notice it. Commander, I think you're right. No, I know you're right. There are 2 distinct songs writing their own musical score here in these logs. 2 minds in 1 body.
Gee, I wonder what that's like.
And they were not in any sort of harmony at all.
So 2 distinct minds or 2 distinct mental settings are we talking about?
Were they
Bipolar or schizophrenia or somebody else like legitimately hitched a ride in his brain?
That's what I'm about to ask. From the music that he heard, was it...
It's not really something Jonas would be able to pin down.
Okay, that's completely fine.
Because, damn it, Jim, you're a pilot, not a doctor.
Maybe ask a girlfriend.
And all I can tell you is that there are 2 distinct presences writing the same music. I would have to refer you to Dauntless at this point.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna find Dauntless, give her all of this, let her chew on it, and I'm gonna go sit in my office and stare at evidence. Yay!
Yeah. Do you mind if I accompany you to see Dauntless?
Not at all.
I imagine I found like a table somewhere on the station, or like I appropriated half of the office in the med bay.
Let's put you in the mess hall, actually.
Okay.
Because it's a very quiet place except for like designated meal times.
And just when you see her, she's like got all of these data pads, and she's fiddling with the box that Narek had in the card,
yep.
like puzzle box. She has one of those that she's like playing with. It's kind of like a Rubik's Cube for those of you who haven't seen it.
a Rubik's Cube for Romulans.
It's like a puzzle box / Rubik's Cube, yeah.
Yeah.
So Shiana sits down and pushes forward a data pad that she's downloaded the relevant logs onto. Up for a little mystery?
Well, if it can help fill in any of the gaps from His childhood, absolutely. What did I
Lieutenant
learn
Cardin and
from
I
his...
both have the distinct impression that there are two different. That Lieutenant Yevik was actually two different people in one. Whether that distinction is actually two distinct personalities or something, haywire in his brain, that's something I want you to figure out. Actually, I need you to figure that out.
And Dathli, having been in contact with the Bajoran government, you were able to get medical records.
Excellent. What did I learn?
You learn that that Yevik early on was diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder,
Yeah. Okay, cool.
and the records were sealed so that he could enter Starfleet Academy.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Is it commonly a diagnosis that would have prevented him from like rising through the ranks?
It probably would have prevented him from getting into Starfleet Academy in the first place.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been able to
Okay.
get into the academy at all.
Do his records stipulate the potential root of the trauma?
Let's have this be a roll also. Reason
Oh,
medicine.
yes. Excellent.
Again, setting the difficulty at 3 here.
Okay. I have a focus on this.
Yep, xenopsychology and or xenobiology. Either one would apply here.
I don't have a... Can I buy an extra dice, please?
Yeah. There you go.
Nope.
Okay.
Did you say insight or reason? Sorry.
Reason.
Oh, well, still.
That's all right.
No.
No worries. So, there are some medical reports that intimate at abuse without coming out and saying it, but not to the point where you can be absolutely sure that's what happened. Like there may have been some childhood trauma involved.
Right, of course. That makes sense.
But if there was, it looks like the doctor, the medical personnel who treated it, were loath to put it in the record.
Okay. Either due to, like, personal connections or whatever.
Or what have you, yeah.
Yeah. Does the record talk about the personalities of the altar or altar?
Not to a great extent, because there are medical records, but the psychological and psychiatric records are somewhat more sparse.
Probably because, trying to keep it under wraps.
One part that, and one part, like, in a religious culture, personality disorders tend to be seen as religious
Beneficial? Yeah.
in nature.
In a sense.
Like, is it dissociative identity disorder, or is he battling a Pa
channeling?
Wraith?
Yeah. Right, okay. That makes sense. Okay. So, I will look over the records that Shiana shows me and, like, note the differences in personality.
Yeah. And it looks like for most of his Starfleet career, Dathli, he was able to keep this under wraps and able to keep it treated, for lack of a better word. like his
Like, yeah,
medical,
he was a coherent system, basically.
right? Like he had coping mechanisms, and
Or potentially, I know I'm not there, but has he been synthesizing his own medication this whole time?
Yeah, that could also be a possibility.
I mean a device that can generate a poison can probably generate other medications. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And no worries. I know that uh, it's been a really light episode, Rye, for you and Jezza, and I apologize. I'm gonna try and fix that here, but just bear with me.
It's fine. I'm just drinking wine.
Bless
so am
you.
I, incidentally, but it is fine. That popped into my head, so I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I feel like the doctor would totally think that.
Yeah.
No, thank you. That is a good thought process. Yeah, so I will look everything over, and then I will say, is it, I want to say Anjar, but that's Bosch's name.
Angel. Lieutenant Angel
okay.
Yevik. So Angel is the family name. Yevik is the given name. The first name, if you will.
Right, okay. So, from my research and the medical records that Bajor was able to release to me, it seems that the lieutenant had been diagnosed in early adolescence with dissociative identity disorder, and for the most part managed to keep it under some sort of semblance of control, though with assistance or some other coercive deception, he was able to keep it from his official recordings on Starfleet medical data. Otherwise, he would not have entered the academy. It seems that the recent events were a stressor of some sort and brought this new alternative angel to the fore.
Well, thank you for that analysis. This is very helpful. This means I can wrap this up. Have a nice long I have a nice long report to write now, but it's done. He killed himself.
As sad as that may seem, yes, it does seem to be the obvious conclusion.
Yeah.
The human expression, I believe, is when you hear hoofbeats, it's more often a horse than a zebra.
Look for horses, not zebras.
Unless you're a Romulan, then it's always a zebra. All horses have stripes on Romulus.
No,
they
then
did.
it's
they did, yeah.
Too soon. Too soon.
I have to admit it's a rather tragic circumstance.
Well, it's unfortunate that he was able to get into Starfleet, to hide this and get into Starfleet and end up in a situation that would cause this amount of stress.
One would assume that he would know that being a Starfleet officer comes with no small amount of stress, and he would have prepared for it. I find myself, well, empathetic, rather confused by the decision.
I think it's just. I think it's sad. I think it's a sad thing, and it's unfortunate that any of this happened. And I don't mean to be callous, but yeah, I need to write my report, and I have to get back to my Kahaya.
Of course.
Hmm.
I suppose in the end, if he hadn't been so careless, none of this would have happened. Or deceptive. If he had been honest with his psychiatrist in Starfleet Medical, well, he more than likely would have been discharged. He could have potentially worked as a civilian within Starfleet. Instead, now 3 people are dead.
Commander, will you be requiring our presence for your kayak?
Given everything that's going on right now, I believe I'm going to request to go through this on my own. Or perhaps at a later date. Though I don't know that Lady Valkyrie will agree to that.
Understandable. If you do need my presence back, I will be more than happy to. For now,
Thank
though, if either of you need me, I will be on the ship.
Thank you for your help today, Jonas. I know that wasn't easy.
He nods and excuses himself from the table to go to the nearest transport.
Shanna sort of watches Jonas walk away and then looks back at Tachli and says, "You might want to go comfort your boyfriend at some point today."
I thought it might be seen as overbearing.
No. I think it would just be evidence of caring.
I like neatly stack all of my data pads for Shiana, and then I just get up and follow Jonas.
Yes. Oh gosh. Okay, sorry. That was not in character, but okay, yeah. Where is Valkyrie? Like, she was following along and then like
I mean, she has shit to do too.
Oh. I wasn't sure. Like, she was like, and then I'm
She's
gonna follow
like
you. And then
living in the
like, later I was
background
like,
with the dick
You turn around and she's right behind you. It is time for the bloodletting to commence. No.
oh god.
That being said, she probably would appreciate the heads up that, you're done. You've wrapped up what you needed to wrap up.
Oh, well, yeah, so Shanna still needs to actually wrap stuff up. The paperwork side of it.
Yeah.
Tell Bianca that.
But if she knows where Lady Valkyrie is, she could maybe give her a heads up on her way to the paperwork.
Okay.
Also, probably tell Bianca that we figured some stuff out.
Oh yeah, I need to update the captain.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's do a little fast forward on the clock. I'm going to deduct a momentum for the scene change, and we will go to Bianca's ready room. With the captain and the first officer.
Well, there goes the first officer.
Yeet!
While we wait for Kate to come back in, Bianca's basically going to send a telepathic message to Varek saying, get Talia off the grid, wipe the record that she was on board the ship until, like, from the point that she left the ship under orders from Starfleet Intelligence.
Okay. Just kind of as you're relating that to Varek, you receive an incoming communication, Bianca.
And she just cues it up on her computer screen.
Scarred man in a black uniform who you recognize instantly as Captain Drake.
Franklin! No, stop the
This
time!
asshole. Captain Drake, what can I do for you?
Captain West, wanted to let you know that what you've probably already deduced. It's no coincidence that the Shroud was called back to the Alpha Quadrant when it was.
Does it have to do with her tactical op?
It has to do with everyone on that ship, Captain. Primarily its tactical officer. We figured the Zealand would get some data off of the Timberwolf's computer banks, and it was probably only a matter of time.
I've already have some thoughts regarding that. According to the ship's logs on the Shroud, Talia technically went MIA. I'm thinking we deliver a destroyed ship with a nearly vaporized Orion corpse, and Talia disappears.
That won't answer to any higher level of involvement. If we don't do this carefully, Captain, they're going to demand the Shroud's captain's head on a pike as well. And if we do it too quickly, they're going to know something's up.
Of course. That thought had occurred to me as well. But they're going to have to go through me to get to the Shroud's captain.
That's why we put them back in the Alpha Quadrant. They're going to have to go through a lot of the Federation to get to him, and we're not going to let that happen.
Well, you know they have an Iconian gateway in their home system, right?
It just kind of gives you a look. Remember who you're talking to, Captain.
Just checking.
Yes, we know, but the Shroud is well equipped to stay off the grid.
That she is. But Starfleet Intelligence shouldn't have been mucking around in my shit out here in the first place.
I don't necessarily disagree. And you're probably going to think this is strange to hear coming from me, but sometimes I think Starfleet Intelligence creates threats that Section 31 then has to clean up.
Tell me you can delete the paper trail.
I can delete the paper trail. And he just sort of smirks.
God, I hate Drake.
Unfortunately, I'm in a position again where I have to trust you.
No
Not
trust
just with the safety with one of my best friends and my fiance, but with the safety of the entire galaxy.
Captain, we're both on the same side. You can consider it done.
Fills me with confidence. Just let me know what I need to do.
For right now, nothing, and I'm not the kind to track favors, Captain.
Oh, fucking shit.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
If I do make a request in the future, it won't be a tit for tat. It won't be, I scratched your back, now you scratch mine. It'll be because I think you're the best person to do the job. Drake out. The channel
Bianca just
closes, and there's a beep at
closes
the door.
communique, and then she rolls her eyes, and then she's come in.
And it's Shiana.
Hey, have a seat.
So I believe that I've wrapped up the investigation into
Angeljevik.
Angeljevik's untimely demise.
Oh, what'd you find?
Well, after examining his personal logs, along with some insight from Lieutenant Cardin and Dachly's information from his Bajoran medical files, he suffered from dissociative personality disorder. Had from the time he was a child. That was
I had a friend in high school like that.
It was kept hidden so that he could enter Starfleet, and it seems that the situation with the Zealand here triggered something with him, and that's how we ended up with dead Zealand and a dead Bajoran.
Yeah, normally the other identity surface to protect the individual due to some kind of trigger. It would make me feel better if we knew what that trigger was.
You know, it could be something, just the arrival of so many different Federation species out here, particularly, oh gosh, I just blanked. What is Quark?
Ferengi?
Especially the Ferengi. He had such a strong reaction on that video that we watched from the day of, when the Ferengi arrived. I'm not sure that we'll ever know exactly what it was, or if it was one trigger or multiple things, all focused around the same topic: slavery.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, speaking of, the Zealand have laid down their demand. They want the Copper Corsair and all associates.
Oh, and what's Starfleet response to that demand?
I told them we'd give them to them.
And how are we going to do that?
Carefully.
Carefully. Well,
They know
do-
that we had they know we had a hand.
They know we had a hand in it, but I did conduct an investigation on the Shroud into Talia's disappearance. And that
Yeah.
investigation concluded that, well, in the official record, that investigation concluded that she acted on her own.
Yeah, well, Section 31 has generously offered to cover our tracks.
Well, we should use some of the digital footprint that exists.
I'm sure Drake already knows it.
Okay.
Never thought I'd see the day where the safety of one of my best friends, my fiance, and the galaxy rests on Section 31.
Are you saying that because you're comfortable with it or not?
Narrator, Bianca was the opposite of comfortable.
Comfortable is not the word I would use, but if it saves lives, and I'm not saying the ends justify the means, but if a few white lies here and there can prevent people I love from dying and prevent galactic war, I'm all for that. I know Starfleet captains who have done worse, that's for sure.
Smash cut to Admiral Janeway.
Not that Bianca necessarily disagrees with anything Janeway ever did, but also smash cut Cisco.
Yeah. That's
Actually-
the burden of command,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I think I've gotten off easy if I can live with it, you know? After all, that's what Section 31 claims thereafter is safeguarding. It's just that I feel like I'm gonna owe Drake for this at some point.
Just never admit it to him.
I guess that's true.
Plausible deniability.
So are you going to have to go through with the rest of your Kalhaya?
I believe so.
Well, let me
Now
know
that
if you
I've-
need to be there.
Well, I don't. With everything that's going on, I don't feel like it's appropriate for me to pull you away from negotiations. And I mean, it's bad enough taking myself out of the picture for 40. Do you think I like that? I hate it.
No, I get it. But seems like things are actually in a good place if we can deliver the Copper Corsair. Because the Zealand have a symbiotic relationship with their subjugated races. They're not able to metabolize all of their enzymes, so they have to have other species do it for them. But the Dominion has volunteered the Jem'Hadar to fill this need for them until we have a technological solution for the Zealand. because the compound that they need to have metabolized is ketracel white.
Wait, how did the Zealand ever develop to the point of subjugating other races to metabolize something for them if they needed it?
Loris explained it. It's to do with their connection to the Herc, and the Herc metabolized the precursor to ketracel white. And they just evolutionarily diverged. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biologist. I'm a captain.
Well, neither am I. All right.
But Loris explained it, and it made sense. So
Well,
it's just
if it made sense.
Oh, thank God I can
Right.
bullshit. I mean, sorry.
as much as it makes sense to a captain. But I'm not entirely crazy about the idea of replacing the using the Jem'Hadar in that way. But at least they said that the Jem'Hadar would be given the choice. I think we all know what choice they would make, though, in service to the Founders. But it's a stopgap measure. And it'll allow people to be free now.
Or is providing the Zealand with a new army something that they're actually trying to make happen?
The loyalty of the Jem'Hadar is to the Founders. I'm not that worried about it.
Well, it's all diplomacy. I'm just the security officer. I suppose there's nothing I can do here anyway.
It's like that dilemma where you trade one thing for one thing and another thing for another thing, and then eventually you'll get the trade that you actually want. It's how these things work. And yeah, I understand that putting the Jem'Hadar under the control of the Zealand's not exactly ideal. But like I said, they're loyal to the Founders. It's literally genetically engineered into them. I don't think the Zealand could counter that.
There's not much I wouldn't put past the Zealand at this point, but I suppose we have to
True.
trust in the enemies that we do know.
You know, Kismet seems sincere. I keep waiting for that other shoe to drop, but she seems sincere.
She's
And
very smooth, but again, diplomacy.
yeah, well, she's somewhat mind controlled by the Queen, though. Who knows how
Only
much
a
of it's
little.
who knows how much of it is the Queen and how much of it is Kismet. I don't even know if I know Kismet, or if Kismet's just an avatar of some kind. But I am ordering Admiral Jar and her medical task force to start working with the Dominion on this new synthetic metabolization technique. Probably also have Zahli look at it too, see if they could employ Borg technology. So that's where things stand.
Okay. Well, do you need me for anything else?
No. Just, I have to remind you that when it comes to my wedding, the only pain ritual I'm going to subject you to is bad karaoke.
Promise that it'll be bad.
I mean, if you want it to be bad, I imagine Bex will be in charge of the soundboard, so they could make it sound good or bad, depending.
Well, only if it's bad would I participate, because I'm only bad at karaoke.
Yeah, no, Tom and I have already discussed doing a father-daughter karaoke instead of a father-daughter dance. So,
No.
Oh gosh. Bianca.
Balana was not supportive, neither was Morale.
I don't know that I can be supportive of this.
Okay, fine, but there's still gonna be bad karaoke.
Fine, bad karaoke is fine. Bad karaoke is what you do.
Once everybody's had too much alcohol to care.
Yes. No, it's what you would do when you're partying before the wedding. Bachelor party. Bachelorette party. That's what I was.
Fair enough. Or we could just have a after party after the reception. That is actually a thing in Mexican culture.
And you're going to stick around for the after party?
I mean, it's the after party, not the honeymoon.
Yeah, like it's the after party, not the honeymoon.
All right, different strokes. I mean, as soon as the ceremony is over, I'm taking pluck care somewhere else.
I mean, fair enough. But do stay for the horchata. It's very good.
All right, I'll hang out at your bad karaoke after party.
Alrighty. Well, you go find that Klingon matriarch and make sure you don't piss her off, because I need a first officer.
Trust me. Pissing off
And
Lady Valkyries is
and a chief
the last thing I
anthropologist.
intend to do.
So,
Well,
sorry.
yes, sorry. You go ahead.
Okay. I would like to do a scene change, and Journey, let me know if you're on board for this, but I'd like to set Jonas up in the holodeck with the light ship.
Yeah.
I sound like I'm playing Clue. It was Jonas in the holodeck with the light ship.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay. So, well, it's a few, like the next day, let's say, Jonas has been working on the light ship design with Catalea, Lieutenant Catalea, our dolphin science officer. And
He's needed the distraction.
yeah, and he has kind of wrapped up. And like they're getting ready to wrap up, Catalea has headed out to get some fish. And Jonas, you hear footfalls on the other side of the light ship. And coming around from the opposite side of it, see a dark-skinned man kind of running his hand along the hall. Dressed in what looks like Bajoran clothing. He looks up and meets your gaze, says, "Good design. Solid. Mostly Bajoran, but looks like you've incorporated some aquatic elements."
That would be Lieutenant Catalea's help.
It'll need some structural reinforcement if you want to travel through the nebula on it. It's particularly here, and he's pointing out a couple of the struts to the sprit sails. Here and here. This nebula has a lot of tachyonides. You will have some fabulous sailing out here.
Thank you for that. I will make notes. I can't wait to actually try her out.
Just be ready when it hits warp speed. It'll take you for quite the ride.
I imagine it will.
Does anyone else have any scenes? Because otherwise, I'm gonna wrap it up here.
Steph wanted to.
Yeah,
Steph,
I just
okay.
want to do a quick thing with Jonas.
Okay. Well, let's have you walk into the holodeck
Okay.
if you want to do that.
Yeah, I will walk into the holodeck.
Okay.
Is this the tail end of where Jonas is looking like he's talking to himself?
No, actually, just like, you hear the holodeck open and you just kind of turn to see who's coming into the holodeck, and it's Dali.
Hmm. Oh, Dali.
I thought I might find you here.
Lieutenant Catalea and I were just finishing up.
It looks different.
Well, this is a combined effort to make it a bit more aquatic. I think it kind of suits it, actually.
Kind of stands beside Jonas and assesses it, kind of somewhat like not critically, but like more just looking it over and
It's hard to disconnect that analytical side of your mind, Dali.
yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah, like there's still the undertone of, alter this angle on the front plate, increase efficiency by 0.24%.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna say that out loud.
Yeah, right.
There are still some points that could be used, though. He points to the spot that was mentioned before by the man who was there before.
Who is not there now.
Jonas is taking it in stride. People coming and going in his line of sight and not being there and then being there, it's becoming normal.
Just Bajoran things.
Just Bajoran visions. It's fine.
Not even sure if it's Bajoran. It might just be a Jonas thing.
Well, admittedly, ship design is not my forte. If I were to assist you, it would probably end up looking like a Borg vessel.
A cube with sails attached.
That's very.
Hey, you know what? We could use some green on this ship.
Not that
Green
color,
is a
though.
very nice color.
The sickly acid green.
I know we spoke a bit yesterday after everything, but I wanted to make sure that you were alright.
I think it's important to recognize that I'm not okay, but that I will be in time.
Well, if there is anything I can do to help.
There is actually. Would you like to help me plant a tree?
You get this kind of confused look, and you just notice that she's holding something in her hands at the moment. I could, yes.
Jonas is gonna look down in your hands. What are you holding?
It's actually a potted plant.
Oh.
It looks like a fern, but different.
Oh, who's this?
I was working on some of the botanical genetic splicing in my spare time.
Are you crossbreeding plant DNA?
I may have assimilated the germospores.
I shouldn't find that adorable, but I do. Here. He's gonna save the data of the schematics that he was working on, inputting the notes that the Bajoran man showed him, pointed out to him.
It was a human, actually.
Oh, human. Okay. Did he recognize this man at all?
Let's do. Let's say he seemed familiar.
Okay. He's gonna save the notes that were added, close the program, and then open up a program titled Seeds of Life. And it's gonna open up this what looks like a part of Bajor with a bunch of trees growing around, and it looks like it's set inside of a partially crumbled temple.
Mm-hmm.
And there are like Vedics and other kind of priests walking around tending to a plethora of different plant life. And he's going to lead Dolly over to a spot that's prepared where a tree sapling is sitting.
Dachley will just go, like, without protest. Kind of, like, set the plant on, like a rock or something, like the actual plant on a rock or something.
Mm-hmm. They're like rock art, like different geometric shapes, like rocks stacked on top of each other and everything. But he'll lead Dachley over to this spot of disturbed earth, and I have a bit of a ritual that I started doing when I was around 92.
That involves planting trees.
Planting trees for people I knew, people I'm connected to, people I've met that aren't part of the living world.
I see.
I can remember planting each and every one of these trees. Specifically for a specific person that no longer is here.
And I'm assuming you would like to plant a tree for the lieutenant?
I would. Because everybody's going to remember him as the Bajoran who almost destroyed the peace talks with the Zealand. Nobody's going to remember him as the Bajoran who was struggling with his own identity.
I would be happy to assist you.
Thank you. And that's that can be them finishing and planting a tree.
Hi, why is Jonas so good?
Right? That's where we're going to end the episode for the night.
I love it though.